Although it's been steadily gaining traction over the last year, modularity in watchmaking has had a pretty rocky history. As early as the 1950s, watchmakers have tried to make watches with interchangeable bezels, cases, and even dials a lasting success, but it's rarely made it past a fad. But perhaps Nivada Grenchen have finally found a way to make the concept desirable by keeping it simple and allowing you to change the bezels on just one attractive watch. Previous attempts at modular watches have largely been a little bit too far of a departure for comfort, or they just end up giving the owner option paralysis, a bit like being in a restaurant and too many things on the menu. Well, the Nivada Grenchen Chronomaster Singer Paul Newman is a desirable watch in its own right, and the different bezel options legitimately increase its versatility. Now, to change the bezels, it's as simple as prying it off with your hand and popping the next one on. Nivada Grenchen has had to completely redesign the case of the Chronomaster to allow the bezel change mechanism, which ensures a balancing act between ease of use and security when you don't want the bezel to fall off. Now, once installed, the bezel is bidirectional and it rotates smoothly based on friction without ratcheting. Now, some may find this a little strange if you're used to dive watches, but this isn't a dive watch, and it's basically how vintage watches used to do it. So there's a total of 5 available bezels. 3 of them are identical in function, but have unique aesthetic effects. As 60-minute elapsed time bezels, they're akin to, say, dive-style bezels, but without any emphasis placed on the first 15-minute quarter. There's also 12-hour markers printed beneath the minutes, so you could use it to track a second time zone. The red bezel is as vibrant as a fire alarm, and it truly thrusts energy into the watch. It also pulls out the red of the chronograph's second hand and 30-minute subdial, heightening the contrast. The black option is the most subtle, looking the most like a vintage watch, while the dark green bezel just adds a muted sheen of colour. Then there's the other 2 bezels, actually providing different functions. The first is an electric blue tachyometer, which is the default choice for a chronograph, and is primarily used to calculate average speed. It's a little bit redundant because the fixed dial already has a tachymeter around its perimeter, but you could either run the blue one as an offset double, or just one that's easier to read. Then the final world timer bezel is fitted both with elapsed minutes as well as some of the world's most important cities, which you can use to see the time in pretty much every time zone of the world. It's half black and red, making for less dramatic of a look than the all red bezel, but it still pops. Within all these bezel options is the secret star of the show, which is the dial. It's almost identical to the Paul Newman limited edition Chronomaster Panda, which the brand sold for over $5,000 in 2021, but with a much cleaner appearance thanks to bright whites instead of cream tones. It replicates vintage Nivada Grenchen dials made by Singer, who also made dials for the famous Rolex Daytona. The case itself is 38mm in diameter, allowing it to stretch its 46.5mm tip-to-tip lugs out without sacrificing comfort. And powering the watch is a manual wound Landerin 7.0 with 43 hours of power reserve, but there isn't really much information available on it. The historical Landerin 7.0 was either a regular or split seconds chronograph movement from the 1940s, but this Nivada is likely to be using a modern variant produced by the current Landerin company. The revived Landerin name has little to do with the historic and is actually aiming to help fill the hole left by Etta, reducing its supply, and mostly seems to be producing Etta clones in a similar manner to Solita. This could possibly be the perfect watch to fulfill your Paul Newman Daytona fantasies, except it's actually affordable, and you can get the bezel swapping as a bonus. It will be available from September 19th in standard production for $1,975. Now, I've got to say, for this price point and for this innovative modular approach, I haven't seen anything like this before. The ease of which you can change the bezels is so surprising, and the way the friction bezel works is flawless. There's no rattles, no clicks, just engineering perfection. And call me crazy, but I actually really like the way this watch looks without a bezel. So there's so many ways you can wear this watch. But I'm curious, what do you think? Is this party trick worth the ticket of entry? Discuss. Hey, If you've enjoyed this little modular roller coaster ride for the wrist, and you want to support us to make more content just like this, well, you know exactly what to do. I'll see you on the flip side.